All right, let's dive into a modern fantasy classic, Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind. This is the story of a living legend, told in his own words, and we're going to break down exactly how that legend was built, and more importantly, what it cost. So, where does this epic story begin? Not on some grand battlefield or in a king's court. No, it starts in the deep, heavy silence of a remote tavern called the Waystone Inn. It's run by a quiet, unassuming innkeeper named Coate, a man who seems to be just waiting for his life to be over. But here's the thing. This is no ordinary innkeeper. You can just feel it. There's a quiet authority about him, a weariness that runs so deep it hints at a dangerous past. This is a man in hiding, not just from the world, but from the man he once was. And that is the central question of the whole book, really. The quiet of the inn gets shattered when a traveling scribe known as Chronicler walks in and recognizes the innkeeper. He knows him not as Coate, but as Kvothe, the world's most notorious magician, musician, and adventurer. And for the very first time, Kvothe agrees to tell his true story. So, Kvothe begins his tale, and it doesn't start in the darkness we see at the inn. It starts in a world that's full of light, music, and a really loving family. Kvothe's world was the road. He was born into the Edema Ruh, a people for whom performance is life. And this wasn't just a job for them. It was their entire culture, built around storytelling, music, and this incredible sense of community. His childhood was, for all intents and purposes, idyllic. His first real taste of magic wasn't about waving a wand. It came from a traveling arcanist named Ben, who taught him something called sympathy. And this stuff is a difficult, almost scientific kind of magic. It's all about linking two similar objects, and then using your own energy and an ironclad will, what they call an Alar, to make one object affect the other. But here's where everything changes. What happens when the folklore, the stories you tell, become terrifyingly real? Well, Kvothe's entire world was shattered by a song his father was trying to write. You know, it's ironic. That love for their art, the very thing that made his life so wonderful, is what led to the tragedy. His parents decided to compose the ultimate ballad, a true song about the Chandrian, these mythical, terrifying figures everyone whispers about but no one really believes in. They were chasing a story, not realizing that story was hunting them. Then one night, Kvothe returns to his troops' camp to find it completely destroyed. The Chandrian are real. And in a brutal, silent attack, they murdered everyone, leaving him orphaned and totally, utterly alone in the woods. This one horrific event just shatters his entire world. The story of the promising young artist, well, it ends right there. And a raw, brutal story of pure survival begins. He spends the next 3 years as a street urchin in the grimy port city of Tarbean. His world was completely flipped upside down. I mean, think about it. A life of music and family was replaced by a harsh reality of hunger and silence. He learned how to survive as a beggar and a thief. This period of his life was all about forgetting. Forgetting music, forgetting joy, even forgetting his own name. He had to build doors in his mind to lock away the trauma, just so he could endure the day-to-day violence and humor of the streets. But then, a storyteller named Scarpi lights a fire in him again. Scarpi tells a story that reveals this one crucial piece of information. The Chandrian have enemies. And that little spark of knowledge gives Kvothe a brand new purpose. Learn everything he can to find them and get his revenge. So, he journeys to the heart of all knowledge, the legendary university. He shows up with nothing but the clothes on his back, a mind sharpened by years of hardship, and a debt to his name. The cost of admission? A totally impossible sum of money. So how does a penniless orphan pay an impossible fee? He doesn't. He walks into his admissions interview and uses his one true asset, his mind. Through sheer intellect and, let's be honest, pure audacity, he debates the masters so brilliantly that they don't just waive his fee, they actually pay him to attend. I mean, what an entrance. This one act really sets the tone for his entire university career. And it's here, at the university, that his legend really starts to take shape. He finds these fiercely loyal friends in Simmon and Willem, and at the same time makes a powerful, arrogant enemy in Ambrose Jacas, a rich noble who tests him at every single turn. And that brings us right back to the Waystone Inn. Kvothe pauses his story, having brought us through his childhood and his arrival at the university. The first day of storytelling is over, but the legend itself? Oh, it's really just getting started. Through his studies, his duels with Ambrose, his adventures around the city, and his constant search for the Chandrian, he starts to earn names. Each one, he tells Chronicler, is a story in itself. Names like Kvothe the Bloodless, Kvothe the Arcane, and maybe the most ominous of all, Kvothe Kingkiller. And so we come full circle, right back to that central mystery. The vibrant, brilliant, sometimes reckless boy who's building this legend somehow becomes Kote, this quiet, broken man who runs an inn and is just waiting to die. And that's where the first day of storytelling ends. The story is far, far from over, leaving all of us to wonder what kinds of triumphs and what awful tragedies could possibly bridge that enormous gap between the hero of the past and the hollow man in the present. What could he have done to lose so much of himself? That is the story yet to be told.